All right, let's talk about creatine. Now, I know what you're thinking, but hold on. Today, we're diving into a side of creatine most people totally miss. Its secret life is some serious fuel, not just for your muscles, but for your brain.
I mean, really, when I say the word creatine, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Come on, be honest. For most of us, it's a pretty clear picture, right? You're probably thinking about the gym, pumping iron.
Yep, that's it. Bigger muscles, cranking out a few extra reps, just hitting that peak physical performance. And look, you're not wrong. The science on that is rock solid. It's super easy to measure, and you can feel the results in just a few weeks. But, and this is a big but, that is only half the story. Not even.
So what if I told you its biggest, most important benefit has absolutely nothing to do with the gym? What if the real magic is all happening up here, in your brain? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
Okay, so to really get why this matters, we have to start with the brain itself, and specifically its absolutely insane appetite for energy. It's like there's a non-stop energy crisis happening inside your head 24/7.
So check this out. Your brain, this incredible command center, is tiny. It's less than 2% of your total body weight. I mean, from a pure size perspective, it seems almost insignificant, right?
But here's where it gets wild. That tiny little organ, that less than 2%, it burns through 20% of your daily calories. Just let that sink in. 20%. The source material for this explainer calls this the most insane statistic of the human body. And honestly, they're right. It's this energy-guzzling superstar.
So where does creatine come into this whole picture? Well, think of it like a super fast battery charger for your cells. Its main job is to help your body recycle its main energy currency, this stuff called ATP, way more quickly. And this becomes absolutely critical when your energy demand goes through the roof.
Okay, so if creatine is this amazing energy booster, you might be wondering, why haven't we been talking about its brain benefits for years? Why weren't the early studies showing this? Well, it turns out there was a huge problem, something we can call the greedy muscles problem.
So here's what happens. You take that standard 5-gram scoop of creatine, it gets into your system. But here's the thing, it doesn't just spread out evenly. Nope, your big skeletal muscles are like dibs. They're first in line and they snatch up almost all of it. That leaves barely anything left over to make it to the brain.
I mean, the source material puts it perfectly. The muscles are greedy as hell. They just soak it right up.
And that right there is the key. Those early studies that came back with mixed results, or even no cognitive benefits at all, it wasn't because creatine doesn't work for the brain. It's because they were using the wrong dose. They were effectively underdosing the brain because they didn't realize just how much the muscles were hogging.
But wait, it gets even more interesting. The dose is just part one of the puzzle. There's a second piece, a specific trigger that seems to be the key to unlocking creatine's power in the brain. And that trigger is stress.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway of this whole thing. Creatine is not some kind of smart drug that just makes you smarter 24/7. No. Its cognitive benefits really truly come to life when the brain is under stress, when its energy supply is being pushed to the absolute limit.
So what do we mean by stress? Well, it's a pretty broad term. We're talking about things like being sleep-deprived, or that intense mental grind when you're studying for a big exam. It could be psychological stress, emotional stress, even just the natural process of aging. All of these things are situations where the brain is just working overtime, burning through fuel like crazy.
All right, so now that we know about the dose and the stress trigger, what does the new science actually show? Let's take a look at some of the emerging evidence.
Well, when researchers started looking at the right people, populations that are under this kind of metabolic stress, like older adults or people who are seriously sleep-deprived, suddenly the benefits became crystal clear. They started seeing real, measurable improvements in cognitive function. Bingo.
And this isn't just for mild stress. It even seems to work in pretty extreme cases. There was this one pilot study, super fascinating, where they gave patients with Alzheimer's disease 20 grams of creatine a day. And guess what? They saw improvements in cognitive function. Now, it's just a pilot study, but that's a really powerful clue about its potential.
And that, of course, leads to the really big question, doesn't it? If creatine can help a brain that's already in an energy crisis, what could it do for a healthy brain over decades? You know, the hardest things to study are often the most important. Could topping off your brain's energy reserves 10, 20 years earlier be a massive game changer for preventing problems down the line?
So all of this new information is causing a huge shift in how experts are thinking about creatine. We're moving way beyond just thinking about muscle.
Okay, let's just lay it all out. The old way of thinking, about 5 grams a day. The main target, your muscles. And the result for your brain, pretty minimal. But the new understanding, we're talking 10 to 20 grams a day. The target is both muscles and the brain. And the result, noticeable cognitive benefits, especially when you're under stress.
And listen, this isn't just some theory. The experts who are deep in this research, many of them are now personally taking 10 to 20 grams a day. The trick, they say, is to split that dose up. So maybe you take a 5-gram scoop 2 or 3 times a day. It's just a lot easier on your stomach that way.
So, could 10 grams a day become the new baseline? Not for bodybuilders, but for, well, anyone who cares about their long-term brain health. It's a really interesting idea, and it's definitely gaining steam.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. Think about our modern lives, right? We're dealing with constant stress, information overload, and let's be real, most of us aren't getting enough sleep. So if creatine is a tool that specifically helps the brain handle that exact kind of metabolic load, what could that mean for us, for just getting through the day-to-day? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.